What's up, guys? So today I've got a super sweet truck that I'm going to be getting back on the road. It's got a cool history. It is a nearly 600,000 mile Toyota Tacoma, and unfortunately the previous owner got left high and dry with a half-finished mobile mechanic head gasket job. Can we get it done? This is the Tacoma, and this is why I got it for such a good deal. A mobile mechanic came out, decided they were going to do head gaskets, and then decided they were never going to get back with the owners. So it's got fresh head gaskets, the heads were machined, it's got nice head gaskets in it, they did everything right there. They just left a few things unfinished. So it's got no timing on it right now. The cams are installed. I'm going to check the torque on all of the cam caps. It's got no timing in it. Let's see if I can get this front cover off. And as you can tell, no tensioners, no anything. There is a brand new timing kit in the front seat that I will be putting on this. And new intake gaskets, new exhaust gaskets, because this thing seriously got left high and dry. I'm gonna get into getting this thing back on the road. So I'll keep you guys updated as to what it takes and what all is gonna go into getting this sweet Tacoma back running and driving. First thing first, I'm gonna get this front cover out of here. I'm gonna get that oil pan cleaned up with some brake clean, some rags, and then stuff it full of rags so that no more debris or anything can fall down there. I'm probably gonna flush it once before I get the timing cover back on by just opening the drain plug, spraying a bunch of brake clean and then a bunch of oil down there, trying to flush anything that might have fallen out there out the drain pan. So this truck did come with an entire timing kit in the front seat. Chains, guides, tensioners, looks like everything is here. So that's really cool. But I do want to make sure I take every single part, sit them next to each other, and make sure everything's the same. I've had aftermarket timing sets that were 1/2 of one tooth different. So if you set it on top of each other, you want to line everything up, and you want these timing marks to be in the same spot, and you want this key to be in the same spot. So if anything out of whack, you want to line it up and make sure beforehand so that you're not sitting there chasing your tail for hours or days or weeks on end because you got a bunk timing kit. So just word for the wiser. And again, I've got both the new and the old timing chain, and I lined them up just to make sure that they're the same size and that the marked links are in the same location. Just double check everything. It is so worth the extra 30 seconds it takes every single time to not have to chase your tail for days on end. I'll bet you can't guess why I'm so retentive about that. All right, and now I have got the intake cam phaser and the exhaust cam gear. And I've got them both lined up on the marks. On the driver's side, left-hand side of the vehicle, you line it up with 2 marks. On the other one, there's only 1 mark, so you only have 1 mark to line it up with. Well, it looks like I got a little bit ahead of myself. There are actually 2 cam gears for the exhaust sides, so I'm going to go ahead and get those on there. I went ahead and, since I missed that, just pulled every single piece of the timing components out. I've never done one of these before. It also looks like you might have to put the tensioner on before you put the chain and everything on, because that looks like it'll be a pain to get in there as it is. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this driver's side that is just hand tight off, get the tensioner in there, and get the new cam gear on there. So get back to work. So the conclusion is, yes, the tensioner needs to go on first, because that would not have gone on with the phaser and everything on. And I've got the new cam gear on here, also lined up with timing marks again. So I'm going to throw it all back together with the tensioner and then move on to the passenger side. And I'm not going to pull any of the tensioner pins until I'm pretty confident in both sides being where they're supposed to be. Like I said, I've never done this engine before. And then after that, I will start looking at the main chain, the guides, where they go, and maybe a few diagrams, because I've never done this before and I'm just trying to figure it out as I go. All right, and with this, I should be done with cam timing. I've got the phaser single dot on the right hand side of the engine, as well as the single dot on the cam gear for the exhaust. I'm gonna go ahead and throw this on. All right, and just like that, I have got the passenger side on. I've got the tensioner in there, tightened down. I've got the marks lined up with these cam cap marks and with the dots on the cam gears. Again, haven't pulled the tensioner pin yet on either side, but again, everything over here is looking awesome. Everything is lining up. So I'm gonna go ahead and look at a few more diagrams, look at what I need to get together to get this main chain on here, get all the timing marks for the main chain lined up, change out this idler sprocket that's going to require, it looks like an 8 or a 10 millimeter Allen, and see about getting this thing completely and totally timed. All right, so I've got this gear replaced, which is kind of a wild gear. It's like a cam bearing. It's not really like a normal bearing, but it makes sense. It's in the engine. It'll always be oil soaked. Looking at, it looks like there's some guides that go here and here, and then I need to figure out where exactly the big guides go. All right, so I fit these little guides up, and I went over to the big guides, and this one definitely looks like it is pushed by a tensioner. So I'm gonna assume that it goes on this giant pivot point, because most of them don't get solidly bolted. And that looks like it will fit right there, which it looks like a tensioner location. So that's perfect. And that leaves this guide to go somewhere in here. That maybe, oh, that looks like it. I was kind of dreading this task, thinking it was kind of big and daunting. So glad to see it's going smooth. All right, and after quite a bit of fiddling, I've got all of the guides on. I've got the chain on, I've got all the marks lined up down on the crank, up here on the cams. I've got the tensioner in. It's not pulled or anything yet, but it's also already under a bit of tension everywhere. So sweet to see. I think next I'm gonna go do a little bit of research to make sure that nothing else goes under the timing cover, and then I think it's time to put the timing cover on, which is awesome because like I said, I really want to get this thing closed up to the elements, and I'm not liking that it's just sitting out here in the open. So all right, and after fighting for probably an hour, I finally got this timing cover on. I got some bolts in it. RTV has been set for about 10 minutes now, and I'm going to go ahead and start torquing all of the bolts down. Well, figuring out where all the bolts go and then torquing all of the bolts down. Because again, this is a puzzle that someone else took apart, and I've never worked on one of these engines before, so I am learning as I go. Definitely have a lot of bolts that I'm not perfectly sure where they go, but figuring it out, and it could be a lot worse. At least all of the bolts seem to be here. All right, and I went ahead and threw the water pump on just because a lot of the bolts for the water pump are actually through the entire timing cover and into the block. So I got all those on. I've got all of the bolts in the timing cover in, the top small ones, the ones into the oil pan and everything. So it should be good to go there. I'm gonna go ahead and jump on to getting these top sensors in and everything to get the valve covers on, because I'd like to get everything covered up, especially with this assembly lube. Any dust in the air is sticking to the assembly lube, and it's just, you know, recipe for disaster. Don't want dirt in your engine. So I'm gonna get this stuff covered up, the valve covers cleaned off, and then I'll assess getting the front of this motor put back together. Haven't really worked on these ever, but it should be fairly straightforward. It's a Toyota. They're always easy to work on. All right, this feels good. I got the valve covers on, both of them. I've got them torqued down. I've got the front cover on, and it's torqued down. Oil pan bolts and everything, so that's super sweet. It feels a lot better knowing this thing is pretty well closed up. I'm not sure what else I can get done tonight. As you can see, the sun has gone behind my wall, so it is getting chilly quick, and it's gonna get dark quick, but I'm gonna try and get maybe the AC compressor and the power steering pump, all the accessories on the front, or I'll get the exhaust on. I'm not sure exactly because the exhaust is still dangling, but I am excited to have gotten some stuff done today. Feels super awesome, feels like a productive day, and I'm gonna see what else I can get done before it gets too dark. I will update you guys before I'm done for the night, but for now, I'm gonna get back to work and get done what I can while I can. All right, as you can tell, it's dark out, so I can't really do much else, but for tonight, I'm gonna have to call it. I hate working in the dark, so till tomorrow. Have gotten a lot done. So last night it got dark, I'm sure you saw, but got all of the coil packs on and tightened. I have got the water pump on, did that with timing cover. I've got the power steering pump. I've got the AC bracket on so that it's ready to throw on. Got the exhaust manifolds on. I need to get a couple studs, or I was thinking about just using a couple bolts on this side to get the rest of that one finished to the head. Other than that, I've got miscellaneous stuff. I'm about to get this fuel rail finished, tightened down. Once I get that done, I can throw the wiring harness on. Once the wiring harness is on, I think I can pretty much put the rest of the accessories on, trying to figure out where things go. I'm pretty sure this is where the oil filter goes, coolant neck, and so on and so forth. Not super familiar with these engines, so I've been doing a lot of researching and diagram searching and just everything. It's super hard to find. Wow, okay, so I guess I got a little carried away. I got the entire intake on, the wiring harness put together, the alternator in place and plugged in, AC compressor in place and plugged in, this water connector junction place. I am actually about to run to the hardware store. I need a front main seal so I can put the crank pulley on. Once the crank pulley's on, I believe I can run the serpentine belt with all of the pulleys, and after that's on, I can put the fan on, and I'm pretty well close to getting this thing almost on the road. So I guess I gotta go to the hardware store. I'm gonna get some oil, some coolant, a filter, and a front main seal. See what I can do. I think this thing is gonna be back on the road today. All right, we're back from the parts store, and I've got everything I need. I got the front main seal. I actually already put it on and put the crank pulley on because I was just super excited to have that, get this thing sealed up. I also put the oil filter on. This thing is now completely sealed. Exhaust is sealed. Everything is sealed. The butterfly flap is covering up front. Intake sealed. Super stoked about that. I've definitely got a few brackets left to put on, some intake brackets, some brackets for the other side of the intake. I got to put the rest of the intake on. Got a breather on this side and a few other things. I'm gonna go ahead and get everything ready to put the serpentine belt on. Once that's on, I can drop the fan with the radiator shroud in. That'll pretty much wrap up the front of the engine. Then I'll jump over, finish putting the intake together. Once that's on, I think it's about time to put a battery in it and start it. Right now I've got the oil draining, so hopefully I can get a fresh set of oil in it, fresh filter. Really good time to do that. Like I said, want to run another like quart or so of extra oil down through it with the drain plug open, just to try and get everything out of here, because I don't want any sort of nasty stuff from all of this being open in my oil if I can avoid it. All right, guys, so we're making some pretty good progress. I've got the rest of the intake on. I need to put the filter and the intake to the fender on, but I was taking care of a couple things over here. I got the oil dipstick tube in. I've got the exhaust torqued on both sides. Serpentine belt on, fan, shroud, all the breather lines, the vacuum reference for the fuel pressure regulator, and I'm actually just about to fill it up with coolant and oil. I got a gallon of coolant and a gallon of oil, so I'm gonna go ahead and fill this thing up and make sure there's no major leaks. And if there's no major leaks, I think I'm gonna go ahead, steal a battery from something else I've got out here and see if this thing will start. So it's kind of exciting. I'm a little nervous. Like I said, never done any major work to one of these engines, and I just pretty much did everything but the head gaskets themselves. And I'm hoping that some mobile mechanic that did head gaskets 3 hours out of town did them right. So all right, and I've got oil in it, the rest of the intake on. Double checked everything I could think of. I checked the oil level. I went through, and I think we're just about ready for a first start. A little nervous, but that's okay. All right, and since I did just do a bunch of major work to this thing, I had all the oil galleys empty and everything like that, I went ahead and took the fuel pump fuse out, as well as unplugging the mass airflow sensor, hoping that it won't fire. So don't expect it to start right away, because I am trying to build oil pressure before I do anything. All right, and that turned the oil pressure light off, so that gives me a little bit of hope that this should fire up this time. I'm gonna get all the sensors plugged in. So Here we go, 580,000 mile Toyota Tacoma. I killed the battery. I'll be right back with a car to jump it with. Alright, and in comes this last car I fully rebuilt, a 2012 Subaru Forester. It's going to give us a jump, so we're going to get that taken care of. Alright, let's see if we can start with the jump. She started. Didn't sound super great, but I could definitely count that to a few things. Alright, let's see if that does it. Don't see any fluids up under. Oh, it's not a drop. I don't know if there's a fluid though. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Got 3/4 of a tank of gas. Oh, and a sweet head unit. Awesome. I dig it. Navigation. Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Sweet. I'm pumped. Glad. Hear this thing running. Sounds good. There's a little hiccupy at first. Look at that. 578,000 miles. Sweet truck. Excited for the new daily. Alright, and here she is. She's been running for probably 20 minutes now. I don't think thermostat's quite open yet. No. Ow. Although the engine is hot. So it's really good. There's been like 2 drops of oil that have fallen, the rest of the fluid that I've put on, and all the gauges are looking decent. I'm waiting for the heater to start blowing hot air. Right now it's not blowing hot air. I'm not sure if that's due to the heater core being clogged or something, but we'll find out. Till then, I'm oh, no steering wheel controls. Dang. What's up? So, I got the Tacoma done yesterday. I drove it around a little bit in town, and it did great. So I told my dad I'd come up here and help him get some wood cut. Here's my other Tacoma that he's been driving. Packed it full of wood, but I'd say we tested the 4-wheel drive getting up here. Is a muddy soup hole, but it's doing amazing. Doing awesome, haven't had any issues. Can't get the rear diff to lock, but I think I can figure that out. I'm gonna get an actuator for it. But other than that, I'm pumped, stoked to see it's doing awesome. Engine sounds great. I think there's a little bit of like a fuel filter, fuel pressure issue. I'm gonna throw the fuel pressure gauge on it when I get back home, but pumped. Stoked to see it doing amazing.